What can a 3,000-year-old legal code really teach us about making things right? Have you ever done something wrong completely by accident? It is that awful sinking feeling in your stomach when you realize you messed up, even if you didn't mean to. Today, we are diving into a surprisingly sophisticated ancient system for acknowledging a mistake and restoring the balance. Let's get into the first big concept here: unintentional sins and their very real consequences. The first category the text talks about is called the sin offering. This wasn't for major deliberate crimes. It was for accidental slip-ups that still had a real-world impact on a person and their community. Maybe you broke a promise, or you just goofed without realizing it at the time. Intent doesn't erase the impact. So what exactly was a sin offering? It was an offering to atone for specific unintentional sins that made a person unclean. Now, this idea of being unclean wasn't about being physically dirty. Think of it more like being out of sync, a state that separated you from the sacred life of the community. The goal here wasn't punishment at all. It was about cleansing. It was about getting a person back to a place where they could fully and freely participate again without carrying that heavy burden. The text gets super specific with its examples. It covers everything from refusing to testify about something you witnessed, to accidentally touching an unclean carcass, to making a foolish or rash vow. It is a wide range, covering legal duties, physical boundaries, and words spoken without thinking. But here's the critical thing. The first step was always exactly the same. Once you realized your mistake, you had to confess. The whole process is kicked off by self-awareness. Without that explicit acknowledgement, nothing else can begin. So how did this system actually work in practice? This is where it gets really fascinating. It wasn't a one-size-fits-all deal. It was designed with economic fairness baked right in. The standard offering was a female sheep or goat. But what if making things right required a valuable animal you couldn't afford? Are the poor just out of luck? Not at all. If a sheep was too much, you could bring 2 doves. If that was too much, you could bring 2 quarts of flour. The system had compassion built into its DNA. The act of making amends was way more important than the price tag. That was the sin offering. Now, let's look at a different kind of mistake, which required a different kind of offering: the guilt offering. This deals with situations where your unintentional actions caused a real, tangible loss to someone or something. It was specifically for when you accidentally misused or damaged the Lord's sacred property, like tithes or goods dedicated to the sanctuary. Basically, it's a case where the mistake created a specific, measurable financial debt. The core idea here is restitution, actively restoring something lost or stolen to its proper owner. Before you could even think about forgiveness, you had to repair the damage. First, you had to make full restitution. But you didn't just pay back the base amount. The system recognized that just giving back the original value didn't cover the full extent of the harm or the trouble it caused. On top of the original value, you had to add a 20% penalty. It acted like a civil penalty to ensure the injured party was truly compensated, and it was a powerful incentive to be careful. After that, you brought a ram to deal with the spiritual side. Let's do a quick recap. With the sin offering, the problem was personal impurity, and the solution was flexible, an offering you could afford. With the guilt offering, the problem was tangible harm to property, so the solution was concrete: restitution plus a 20% penalty plus the offering. Different problems, different solutions. But the bottom line for both was exactly the same: purification and forgiveness. Let's zoom out and look at the big picture. Why go through all this trouble? This was never just about following a bunch of rules. The entire system was aimed at one single thing: restoration. It was about repairing what was broken. The priest purifies you, makes you right with the Lord, and you are forgiven. Being made right had real-world meaning. It meant you were a fully integrated member of the community again, participating fully without the stain of that mistake holding you back. It was social healing and spiritual healing all rolled into one. And all of this leaves us with a pretty big question to think about today. When we look at these ancient ideas, principles like flexible payments based on ability and a focus on restitution that makes the victim whole again, it really makes you wonder, how can these ancient systems of restoration inform our own ideas of justice today? And what would it look like to build that kind of compassion and accountability into our modern communities? Take a moment, breathe, and let them sink in.